Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our onX Hunt Masterclass tonight on our deep dive, where we're going to cover all the ins and outs of the onX compass mode, as well as our rangefinder integration. We'll just give it a minute or two to let everybody get settled in and let some folks get logged in and everything. While we're doing that, just some housekeeping. Your audio and video are turned off, so no worries if you've got noise behind you or anything. We can't see you or hear you. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box down below. That's where it's easiest for me to answer them at the end of the class. In the chat, things can just get lost. If you've been at a previous onX Hunt class, a lot of times we will have somebody answering questions as the class is going on. I'm a one-man show tonight, so if you throw a question in there, we'll try to answer, or I'll try to answer as many of them as we have time for at the end of the class. We just won't be able to answer them as I'm presenting here. This class is being recorded, so we will send out a link tomorrow to everybody so that you can go back and re-watch it if you want, or if you have to leave early or anything like that. It'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel and you can go back and re-watch it as many times as you want. We are doing a giveaway at the end of class as well. We're giving away some onX Hunt hats, so you do have to be present to enter the giveaway, and we'll send that link out in the chat when we start the Q&A towards the end of the class here. So let's go over a little bit of the agenda, what we're going to be covering tonight. First, we're just going to talk about how to turn on the onX compass mode, what to look for. There's a couple different ways you can access it. We'll talk about how to use some of the different features of it, what everything means. We'll talk about marking distant waypoints, which is really, for me, is the big attraction to compass mode. That's the cool feature, at least for me, for out in the field. And then we will also go over our rangefinder integration. You may have seen earlier this summer, onX, along with Loophole, introduced a new feature where the Loophole rangefinder integrates with the onX Hunt app. We have more news on some potential expansions as far as the amount of brands, or not the amount of brands, but other rangefinder companies that are coming on board soon. And then we'll go over a couple different use cases and a couple tips and tricks for using the compass mode and waypoints and using them out in the field to plan stocks and things like that. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up the onX Hunt app on my tablet. This is on an iPad. So if you have an iPad or you have your phone handy and you're watching this on a computer, it might be helpful to pull that up so that you can follow along. Of course, if you're watching this on your phone or mobile device, that's a little bit difficult. But just thought I'd throw that out there for those folks that have the option. So I'm going to pull up the onX Hunt app. There is a little bit of a delay here typically. Let me do this one more try. Okay, there we go. So I've got the onX Hunt app pulled up on my tablet here. I can see my location right here in the center. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. And then there's two ways to access the compass mode. The first way that I'm going to demonstrate is to go down to my tools menu in the lower lower part of the map, right in the center. It says tools. Tap there. Along the bottom, there's a button that says compass mode. So it's bottom row, second from the left. I'm going to tap on compass mode. Now you see my screen has changed a little bit. My blue dot is lowered towards the bottom of my screen, and then I have this kind of gridded line coming up from my blue dot. As I move that around, as I move the tablet, if you can kind of see, I'm just spinning the tablet right now, and that line, everything moves with me. The compass on top moves. Okay? So along the left side of my screen, you see some yardage marks there. This is a neat way just to get a quick, hey, how far away is something? If I zoom out, you see those yardage marks begin to change, and those correlate with those thicker hash marks on that line coming out from my location. I'm going to tap the exit button in the lower right-hand corner right now just to get out of compass mode. That's how you get back to your regular, what the app looks like to you normally. The second way to turn on compass mode, and this is honestly what I do probably 100% of the time, to be perfectly honest. The second way to turn on compass mode is go to the lower right-hand corner and tap your location button. That's the one that looks like a crosshair. I tap it once. It's going to center on my location. Tap it again. It's going to turn into an arrow. It no longer looks like a crosshair, and you see that blue sight cone emanating from my dot. That's a feature we've had. I've been at onX for 6 years. It's been a feature since before I was here. But then you'll notice in the lower right-hand corner, a third icon has appeared. It looks like a compass. If I tap that, that's how you can get into compass mode as well. Again, that's what I personally use. There's no right or wrong way, whatever works best for you. But now that I'm in compass mode again, you'll notice that there is a fourth icon in the lower right-hand corner, and it looks like a handheld rangefinder, right? So if I tap on that, you'll notice that the bottom portion of my line coming from my dot is red or orange now, and to the left, I've got a waypoint icon with yardage labeled there. Okay, so this is how I'm going to be able to mark a distant waypoint, mark a waypoint of something far away from me with some precision, right? This has always been an option. You could always put a waypoint anywhere in the world you want, but let's say that I've got my rangefinder and I'm gonna range a bedded buck. I use that example because I actually used this last year on a mule deer hunt. I found a bedded mule deer. He was at 270 yards from where my position was. I was able to range. I pointed my phone. So you can still rotate this if you want. Get it set just right so that it's pointing at that animal or at that target, whatever you want to mark. Then I'm going to tap this lock button in the lower right-hand corner. And you don't have to do this if you don't want. But what it does is now if my phone moves a little bit, it's not going to rotate anymore. I'm moving my tablet right now. You can't see because it's off screen, but it's not rotating. So that's nice if you're holding your phone and you get it lined up just right. Hit the lock button. Then, if it's cold, it's windy, you're excited because it's hunting and hunting's awesome. Then you don't have to worry about it kind of shifting left and right. You've got it locked on, where you want it. Okay, so we've got it locked, got it pointed at the animal. Let's say it's not 177 yards. I need to move it farther out. I'm just placing one finger on the screen and dragging it up. You can tap on that line if you want. You don't have to. A finger anywhere on the screen will do. And as I move my finger up and down, you see that line move. If I want to really zoom in more, I can drag it down and it'll zoom me in for a close target. If it's farther away, I move it all the way up and it's going to zoom me out automatically. Okay, so let's say, I range an animal, it's at 400 yards. I can do that, and then I can tap that waypoint icon to mark a waypoint on that spot. From there, I can go in and edit if I want. In my case, my example last November, I laid there, prone behind the rifle while the buck was bedded for, it was like an hour, 15 minutes, hour, 20 minutes. So I had plenty of time to do this, right? If it's gonna be a quick shot, don't worry about editing the waypoint until after the fact. But, let's just say we've got some time. I'm gonna make it a buck mule deer icon. I'm gonna change the color and I'm gonna hit save. So now I'm gonna exit compass mode. Now I see where I am, and there's the mule deer buck. Okay, one other thing I wanna show, I'm just gonna move my tablet so that it looks a little different. I'm gonna go back into compass mode. I'm gonna go into rangefinder mode. And if dragging is a little tedious or you can't get it just right, you can also tap. If you see right now where it says 249 yards, You can tap on that, and let's say I ranged it at 540 yards. I can type that in. If you have a different compass heading, like say you're still using a manual compass, which, I work for onX, I still carry a manual compass, right? It's a good thing to have no matter what. Let's say you're proficient with that, and you take that heading off of your manual compass, and you say, it's not 352 degrees, it's 359 degrees. Whatever it is, right? I typically don't mess with that personally, but it's an option there for you if you want it. I typed in 540, it's going to automatically move that icon up there, and then now I can place it there. If I don't want to edit it, I just hit the done button. If I accidentally place this, it's not in the right spot, you can see it's a little bit small, but on the right-hand side of that box is a trash can. That just deletes it and it brings me back, so now I can again move that to wherever I want it to be. Okay, and again, when I'm done, I'm gonna tap the exit button. That's gonna take me out of compass mode and just bring me back to my regular onX map that I'm used to here. Okay, so that is a feature that has been out for a little while now. I'm sure some people have used that before. What I want to show right now is our rangefinder integration with Leupold. So earlier this year, Leupold came out with a new rangefinder. It's the RX 5000 TBRW, which is, it's a wordy title. This is a pretty sweet rangefinder. I understand not everybody who's watching this, or probably most people, don't have one of these right now. We are working with other companies as well to expand our offering here. But I'm going to I'm on the 3rd floor of the onX office right now. In a bit here, I'm going to step outside just so I can range something so that it's not just, I'm not ranging the other side of the room. But I'm going to close out of onX and I'm going to open up the Leupold app. It's called the Leupold Control app. And so this is the app you need to use to integrate your rangefinder to onX. Right there at the bottom, it says it's disconnected. If I press the power button on this unit, now it is connected. So when I'm doing this, I can range different targets and it's not dropping pins all over my map. That would be pretty annoying if every time you hit that range button, it's dropping a pin. So once you find a waypoint, you find a target, you find a location you want to range and you want a pin on, you tap the pin next button. So now the next time I range something, that will show up on my onX map. So I'm going to step away for just a moment here so I can go out that door right behind me so that I can range something across town here in Missoula so you can see what this looks like. So stand by. Okay, so I'm going to close out of the app here. I am going to zoom out. It should be showing there. I had a little trouble getting a target here to show. We've got some weather here in Missoula that's making it a little difficult. And wouldn't you know it, when you go live, things don't go as planned. I'm gonna go back in here. I'm gonna try this one more time. I'm gonna range something a little bit closer. Stand by. There we go. So I just ranged a building across the street here, and now if you look at the map, you can see right in the center, there is that Leupold waypoint icon. So that is what I just ranged with this rangefinder. And so it's got its own color, it's got its own icon. If you want to change it, it's going to give you that name, Leupold Ranged Waypoint. I'm going to tap on it like I just did, tap the edit button. Now it's like any other waypoint. If that was a buck mule deer, I want to change the color and change the icon. I can hit save, and now it's back to just being a regular onX waypoint. So if you're interested in this Loophole integration, their website has a lot of great information on the device itself. You do have to calibrate these things. You have to calibrate the compass in it. And I know Loophole does say you need to be away from kind of any kind of ferrous metal. So they say if you're standing right next to a truck, even though it's not a magnet, but it's iron, it's steel, that can affect the accuracy of this. I think I heard an interview with one of their product designers or engineers who said even if you have your rifle barrel slung over your shoulder, that having it, the rangefinder that close to the barrel, that can affect it slightly. So it is something to keep in mind while you're using this integration. It's all based off compasses and things like that, and they are not infallible. Things can affect them. I would be interested to see, if I don't think this would really affect it, but maybe if you're in an area where there's a lot of iron ore, things like that, might be something to keep in mind as well. But it is pretty slick to be able to just, this rangefinder, I was using it earlier, it was like, I was able to shoot stuff 2,000 miles away with the rangefinder and mark a waypoint. So pretty slick there. I did mention, it's not, right now Loophole is the only one that integrates with onX. Next up will be Sig Sauer. So we have been testing with Sig rangefinders, and they have a number of different rangefinders out there right now. As far as I know, as long as it kind of has that BDX system, if you're a SIG user, you're probably familiar with that. It's their ballistic data exchange that you use for like shooting solutions and things like that. So they have a bunch of rangefinders that are maybe in the hands of people watching this right now that will integrate. We're kind of in the final steps. SIG is working on an update to their app right now that will go live before, I know some hunting seasons have kicked off, but before the majority of our hunts open, at least here in the West, before September 1st. So if you're a Sig Sauer user, that's something to take a look at and keep in mind and take a look at once it is released. Okay, so enough with the rangefinder there. I want to talk about a couple of different use cases for why you might want to use compass mode and rangefinder mode to mark a distant waypoint. First and foremost, I mentioned it earlier, if you have an animal that you are planning to shoot, right? We all know after you shoot an animal, if you don't watch it drop, you're gonna have to blood trail, and finding first blood can often be fairly difficult, especially if it's in thick, brushy country. I grew up hunting in northern Minnesota in some real swampy country. Even though a 100-yard shot up there is a pretty long shot in the woods, when you climb down, you've got all those willows, hazelbrush, thick aspens, things like that. Things look different. So to be able to have a waypoint, to know exactly where to start blood trailing. That mule deer I talked about earlier, I laid there for a little over an hour. Eventually it stood up, put a shot on it, and it went over a ridge. It was in some kind of breaky country, plains type stuff, eastern Montana, and went over the ridge that it was laying on and went out of sight. And I felt confident in the shot. I was fairly certain it was dead. The couple of does it was with, I watched run off, and he wasn't with it. But it was nice to have that waypoint right there where it was bedded. I was able to walk right up to it. A couple steps later, found blood, pretty short blood trail, there it was. Another use case for this is planning a stock. So maybe you're not a rifle hunter, maybe you're an archery hunter, and you're hunting archery elk, for example. That's what's on my mind because that's one of my first hunts coming up here in September. You're glassing a hillside, you're maybe glassing some open parks, some grassy country, and you see a bull elk in this distant park. Okay, I don't know exactly where that is on the hillside aside from me. In the past, I would have used the satellite imagery and tried to kind of pinpoint it and say, all right, I think he's here, put a waypoint on it, use that to plan my stalk to kind of guide me as I'm stalking in. Now I can, if I have a rangefinder that integrates with onX, I can just range it and boom, I'm good to go. If I don't, which I personally don't have one yet, but I can maybe still range it with my old school rangefinder and say, all right, that's 475 yards. I'm going to use the compass mode like I showed before and put that waypoint on there. A couple other tricks of the trade when planning stalks. I'm going to use this mule deer waypoint right here. So we marked this with compass mode. I know we're in the middle of Missoula right now. Let's just suspend our, this hypothetical. Let's pretend we're in the woods. And let's say there's a buck bedded there that I'm going to try to put a move on. A couple things I can do here to help give myself more information as I'm stalking in. If I tap on that waypoint, along the bottom of my screen, there's a button that says Go to Waypoint. I think this is one of the most underutilized features of the onX Hunt app. When I tap Go to Waypoint, it draws a line from my location to that waypoint as the crow flies and gives me a distance, 398.8 yards away. As I move, I'm sitting in the office right now, so I can't really demonstrate this, but that line moves with my dot. So it's not static, it'll change as I walk. So let's say I'm rifle hunting in this example, and 398 yards, that's a little too far for me. Let's say my effective range is 250 yards. Now, as I'm stalking in, I can just I can take a look at my phone real quick and say, all right, I'm at 325, I'm at 300, I'm at 275, I'm at 250. Now, is this go-to waypoint necessarily going to get you as accurate as a laser rangefinder? It might be off by a few yards, but to be honest, if my effective range is 250 and I've got a really good rest and everything else and it's 252, personally, I'm probably still taking the shot, right? So, you use it to say, all right, I'm getting close, now I'm going to pull out my rangefinder, just so you don't have to constantly be lasering it and trying to figure out, all right, am I close enough? Am I close enough? Am I close enough? So that's one thing you can do after you've marked your waypoint with compass mode or your rangefinder. I'm going to close out of that here, if it will let me. There we go. The other thing you can do is to use a range radius on your waypoint. This is another thing I don't see too many people do, and I think it will really be helpful to folks. If I tap on that waypoint, it pulls up this card, says my location, all that stuff, right? If I scroll up a little bit, just drag my finger up, there's two tools there. There's wind direction and waypoint radius. For this example, we're going to use this waypoint radius. So what this is going to do is it's going to put a circle, like you see there, around the waypoint. So again, if my effective range is 250 yards, I know that's not a long ways to some folks, but it might be for you, so we're going to use that. So I'm going to put it at 250 yards. I'm going to hit apply, close out of this menu. Now I've got this circle it's a 250 yards, so 500 in diameter, 250 yard radius around that buck. This can be used, like in my previous example, just to know, hey, how far away am I from that barrier, that 250 yards? How much more area do I need to close? The other really cool thing is, especially if you're in more open country, you're in kind of mountainous country, and again, in the heat of the moment, you might not have time to do all this. There might be times you're like, man, we just got to go now, and that might happen more often than not, right? Fully recognize you might not have time to mess with all this. But if it's an example where it's a bedded herd, it's a bedded animal, they're feeding and they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Now I have this circle, this diameter, where I know if I'm anywhere within this circle, I'm going to be able to take an ethical shot, per my self-imposed limitations of 250 yards. Now, again, we're in town. It's not the best example, but I could take a look at that and say, all right, where's the best shooting position for me from here? Where's the best place to make a stock? And maybe there's a nice ridge line that I can get close to, or there's an opening, there's a lane through the brush, through the trees or something, so that I can kind of take a look at this and say, you know, oh, hey man, if I go all the way around to the north and work around that way, that's going to be a much better odds. You know, I'm going to have a better spot to shoot from, or I'm going to have a little bit more cover where they might not see me, or something like that. So those are two things, and you can use them in conjunction. I can also turn on go to waypoint with the radius if I want. So those are two features. Again, neither of those are new features, but I think they really complement the compass mode really well. And I think those are a couple of things. Again, if you have the time, if it's an animal that looks like it's ready to bolt, by all means, go after it, put onX in your pocket, and, you know, just be a hunter. But if you do have the time, I think they're pretty neat tools that can really help you be more successful. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. I want to pull up our giveaway here, so give me a second. So like I mentioned, we're giving away some onX Hunt hats. I will post the link in the chat here in a second. There we are. So we're giving away 10 of these hats today, just as a thank you to everybody for coming. The link is in the chat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn off the chat right now, just so that link is there. Otherwise, that link gets lost. So chat's turned off momentarily, just so that everybody can click that link. Otherwise, I know some phones, that link's not clickable for some reason. If you copy and paste it into a browser, or copy and paste, you know, just type this in, HTTPS, that whole thing. Go ahead and type that in, get entered. We just ask for your information, your email, your name, your shipping address. I'll pull the winners tomorrow morning, and then I'll send an email out to everybody. We'll get your hats sent out tomorrow morning. So we're giving away 10 of those bad boys. So again, links in the chat. And then let's get to some questions. Let me see, I can leave that up while we do Q&A, why not? Let me pull up the Q&A bar. Actually, it won't let me share while I have Q&A open, so let's see. So we got a few questions in there. I'm going to try to keep it as on topic to the compass mode and rangefinder integration today. If we have time for the other questions, we'll get to those, but I'm going to prioritize the ones that are having to do with the compass and everything. So, see a question from Chris. Is the compass accuracy affected by magnets close by? For example, the FHF fob harness. If so, how far from a magnet should the phone be kept? So Chris, great question. That's something I should have mentioned earlier. Magnets do affect the compass in the rangefinder. We have heard reports from some folks who have said, you know, and there's a number of different brands of bino harness that have magnets in them, and they've said they have noticed it have an effect on it, unfortunately. I don't know exactly how far away, you know, you need to be from the bino harness. With the onX app, we haven't noticed a big difference, especially, you know, if you're holding it out kind of at arm's length. Typically, your phone compass is able to still give you a good reading. With the rangefinder, if you're, you know, this one you can mount on a tripod, and they do have the option to, in the app, remote fire, where you can just tap a button in the app, and it shoots the rangefinder. That way you can maybe be farther away from it. But if you're holding it up here, bino harness is right here, that can have an effect. So I don't have an exact hey, you got to be X amount of feet away, but magnetic bino harnesses can affect those compasses. Let's see, a different Chris asked, is there a way to calibrate your compass in the app? So there is a way to calibrate the compass on your phone. It's not within the onX Hunt app. So the way this works is just about every modern smartphone has a compass built within it, and that compass can get off, can get knocked off. I've had this a number of times. I'm an iPhone user. Same thing goes for Android. And my iPhone has a compass app on it where I can just pull up and it looks like a compass, right? And I've noticed that, especially when I'm walking down a trail and it'll be flipped 180 is typically how my phone would be. It was off 180 degrees. I would pull up my iPhone, the compass app that comes on my iPhone preloaded. It would read the same thing. It would say I'm heading south when I'm actually heading north. So there is a way to calibrate your compass. I don't have those steps. It's a number of steps. I don't have them written out that I can send you. A Google search, or I believe we even have a tutorial or an FAQ on our help center can help you show that. You got to go into your main phone settings and calibrate the compass. Android has, it's different on an Android, but a similar process to go in and calibrate that compass. And I know on my iPhone, I've had to turn it, toggle that switch a few times, and then that will calibrate the iPhone compass, which then calibrates the onX compass, because we mirror what your phone's compass is telling us. So if the phone's compass is showing you're headed due east, that's what onX is going to show. So that's how you kind of calibrate that. Few questions on magnetic or true north. onX uses magnetic north. Good question there. Alex asked, is this compass function only for handheld, not laptop? Yes, it is just for handheld. It's just for a tablet or a smartphone. It's not available on the onX web map. Primarily because that's mostly it's mostly for in the field use, so it's just on mobile devices. Evan asked this, and I think I answered it after he asked it, but does it work with other rangefinders? Right now, it's just the Leupold RX 5000 TBRW. Like I mentioned, Sig Sauer is going to be the next brand that is coming online. I'm not going to give you, hey, it's going to be live on this date, because software development, things can change. We might, a bug could be found or something, but it is really, really close. And I've been with other onXers who have, integrated Sig Sauer rangefinders, and I've seen them use it, and it's pretty sweet. We're just kind of putting the finishing touches on it, or I should say Sig is putting the finishing touches on their app and getting that all together. Josiah asked, how precise is the placement of the waypoint? It's pretty darn close. It's going to be as accurate as GPS technology allows us. So I think civilian GPS is limited to, it's like a couple of feet, a couple meters maybe. I think it might be a couple meters. I used to know this off the top of my head. Military GPS, they've got it down to where they can, drop munitions down chimneys and things like that. So it could be off by a couple of meters. I found it to be pretty spot on, but for blood trailing purposes, for planning a stalk, definitely going to get you close enough. Christian asked, how does battery life get hit when connecting the rangefinder? I don't know that we've tested it. It shouldn't really be a big draw on your battery. It is connecting with Bluetooth, so there is a little bit more of a draw there, but you're not really going to be, you're probably not going to be adding a ton of waypoints over the course of a hunting day. You certainly can. You can add a ton. I still don't think it will affect the battery that much, but if I'm using this out in the field, I'm probably not marking more than a handful of waypoints over the course of a day. Maybe if I'm, archery antelope starting up here, at least in Montana on Thursday, I think a lot of other states, start August 15th. So if I'm spot stock archery antelope, it's a lot of times you get a lot of opportunities in a day, and you might want to put a waypoint for every antelope that you see. That would probably be the most waypoints I would mark. Don't know that we've tested it, so I can't say for sure, Christian, but I would expect it to not have a major impact on battery life. Bill asked, do you expect to be able to sync with the Leica GeoVid Pro 10x32 in the near future? I can't say about near future. I know, I think we have maybe had some talks with Leica. I don't know to what extent. We would love to work with as many rangefinder companies as possible so that we can get this in the hands of as many customers. There has to be the desire on the side of the other rangefinder companies, whether it be Leica, Vortex, Bushnell, you name it. If there's a desire on their side, hopefully we can do something and get this into everybody's hands. So Mark asked, list of compatible rangefinders. Right now, that is a list of one. The Leupold RX 5000. Sig Sauer will be coming shortly, and both of the manufacturers' websites are a good resource as far as finding out which ones integrate, which ones are compatible. Ward asked, I assume all compass functions work with offline maps. Yep. Everything that I demoed here today works whether you're online or offline. Let's see. If your rangefinder automatically corrects for slope, how does the compass mode deal with that? Is it distance measured on the level, or does it consider slope distance from your current location? So it's going to be, trying to figure out the best way to explain this. It will be actual distance, like as the crow flies from you. So if you were like on the onX map, if you were looking at Earth from directly above, it's that distance. So it's not going to necessarily give you like the distance your bullet will travel. It's distance, because that's what you want to shoot for anyways, because gravity only works this direction. So if you're shooting at an angle like this is the distance you want, right? So it's going to give you that distance to the target if you were to draw a straight line, if everything were 2 dimensions. I might have butchered that explanation, but I hope that helps. Let's see, Paul asked, looked like the same question there. Few of those questions. Let's see. Bryant asked, I mentioned northern Minnesota, Roseau County. We actually deer hunt in Itasca County. It's a little bit south and east. Another Minnesota question. Wow, Minnesotans showing out here. Chad asked, I often have issues with the compass being way off, even when no magnets nearby. So Chad, the first thing I would do is try to calibrate the compass on your phone. Again, it's different whether you have an Android or an iPhone, but do a quick, the best way to find the steps is probably to do a Google search. They'll have it laid out for you, and try to calibrate your compass that way. And then if it's an old device, sometimes there's just not much you can do. Unfortunately, sometimes those kind of just go bad. I did have that on an older, I think it was an iPhone 7, where the compass, I brought it into the store and they were like, yeah, we've seen this happen before where it doesn't work. And when you think about the percentage of users that use the compass to the extent that we do as hunters, it's pretty small. So you may or may not get help, but definitely try that calibration. Does the waypoint and compass heading stay constant if you change from satellite to terrain maps? Yep, none of that changes. The base map, think of the base maps just basically as a picture. You change the picture below it, the waypoint and compass headings will stay the same. Dennis asked, does this all work the same in 3D? I honestly have never tried. That's a failing of mine, but I just tried it. So if you tried to do the compass mode in 3D, it will kick you back to 2D mode. So that's a great question, something I had never even thought of before. Bill asked again, yep, works offline. You don't have to be online to use the integration or anything like that. Marty asked, why in certain areas does it take a long time for the compass to lock on? It's a good question, Marty. I haven't seen that personally, and I haven't heard of this, to be perfectly honest. It could be that your GPS signal maybe isn't so great because those two are linked. And so it may be that it's still kind of trying to find exactly where you are. Beyond that, I honestly don't know, Marty. I haven't come across that. It may be time to do a compass calibration. I know I've said that multiple times today, but give that a shot. That might help sort things out. Let's see, a couple more questions about working offline. All this works offline. Mike asks, the rangefinder model number. It's the RX 5000. I can hold it up there. That's the one. Right now, that's the only one with Loophole. I don't know if they have plans to release any other ones. Sig Sauer, I don't have a list right now as far as what's going to be compatible. They do have a number of different ones at different price points that once this is released, they're all their Kilo that are BDX compatible. So it has to have that system. I've got an older Sig Kilo, I think it's a 1250 that I bought 7-8 years ago. That one's not gonna, be compatible, but any of them with that BDX system will. Let's see. Good question here. Would you suggest to go into airplane mode and only have your Bluetooth on to save battery? Also have your screen brightness turned down. Of course, you have to have your downloaded maps before you go. Yeah, if we're talking saving battery, like there was that question earlier, put your phone into airplane mode and then, using your screen sparingly. Those are the two best ways to save battery mode if you're worried about that. Nicholas said, be pretty cool if it worked with the Vortex Fury. I agree, Nicholas. Hopefully in the future we can get Vortex integrated as well and get them compatible. There's a lot of people at onX and a lot of my friends, a lot of folks use Vortex optics, and it'd be awesome to get them. Dane asked, how do you toggle range distances from yards to meters? So you do that in the settings of your onX Hunt app. So if you go to the top left corner, as you're looking at the map, there's a hamburger menu there. It looks like 3 horizontal lines. Tap on that, and then that'll pull up a menu. Then tap on settings, and that's where you can change from imperial to metric if you want to use meters instead of yards. Sean asked, is there a blood trail mode or follow me mode if we are hiking or trailing? That's been talked about. We've talked about kind of trying to design a blood trailing mode, something that would kind of streamline things and make it easier while you're blood trailing to mark pertinent information. Right now, there's not. What I do, Sean, when I'm blood trailing, I've used my compass mode to find where to start. I will start my tracker so that I have that track running the entire time. And so I can see where I've been, and then I will usually mark where I find blood. I might not mark every single spot, but I will mark periodically, or if it kind of peters out, I'll mark last blood so that I have something to go on. So that's, for the time being, that's what I use right now. Another question, yep, Sammy, this works the same with offline maps. Jerry asked, again, how to access compass mode. Let me pull up the map one more time so I can demo this. So there's a couple different ways to access the compass mode. Let me get this pulled up. Oh, come on here. There's always a lag with Zoom here. So let me close out of everything I was doing earlier. So how to access compass mode, you can go to your tools in the bottom of your screen, Jerry. Bottom row here, second from the left, it says compass mode. You can access it that way. You can also tap your location button, tap it again, then tap the compass button, and then that will turn it on for you. Sammy asks, sorry if I missed this point, but what do you mean by having those rangefinders integrated with the app? So that was what I demonstrated earlier, Sammy, where if I integrate my loopholed control app and my loopholed rangefinder, I can shoot a laser, right? Range a distant target, press the button, boom, and then that loopholed app will send a waypoint to my onX map and place a waypoint on my map to that place, that target I just ranged. So I got an elk at 300 yards, I range it, boom, now I have a waypoint right where that elk is standing. So that's what we mean by integrating with the app. Let's see. James asked, can you drag the view on your mobile device as opposed to pointing your phone? Yes, you can. So I can demo this. So what he means is instead of tipping my phone around, can I just move my screen, like this? So if I lock my screen, like I just did there, now I'm just moving my finger left to right on my screen, and you see it's rotating. So my tablet here is not moving at all, but I can still move that. You've got to hit that lock button, so now you see that padlock at the bottom is locked, and then I just, with my finger, move that around. That's a great question. That's something I forgot to mention earlier. Keith asked, how to get into range radius. Let me exit compass mode here. Let me see if I can just find another waypoint. So I'm just going to go to a random waypoint here just to demonstrate range radius again. So I'm going to tap on my waypoint. That brings up this, we call it a query card. So it brings up this menu here. If I just drag it up with my finger and tap on waypoint radius, from there you can have it set to yards or miles. And I can just drag and set it to whatever size I want. Okay? And then hit apply. There, I've got my radius set. All right. Let's see. There's a few other questions. I think we've got to most of these. Let's see. Bob asked, why does my compass line not start at my location as I see it does on the screen? I'm having a hard time picturing what you mean by that, Bob. If you mean, if I go back to my compass mode here, if your line is not starting from the dot there like mine is, if that's the case, if that dotted line is not starting from your blue dot, to me that sounds like a bug. I haven't seen this before, but anything's possible. If that's what you're seeing and it's not looking kind of like mine does, take a screenshot of that and email it to us. Our customer support email is help@onxmaps.com. That'll go right to our customer support team. They should get back to you tomorrow sometime if you send it tonight. And that screenshot will help them take a look at that and potentially troubleshoot that. If it is indeed a bug or a glitch in the software, we'll get in touch with the engineers and get that corrected. Let's see. Doug asked, can you incorporate wind with your waypoint radius? Yep, you can. So I'm gonna go to this, I'm gonna close out of compass mode. I'm gonna go to this mule deer waypoint that I have a radius on. I'm gonna tap on it. I'm gonna tap on wind direction. So now I can have it show the current wind, or I can have it set the optimal wind. Might not be something you're using when planning a stock like we talked about earlier. I would just use a wind checker with a puffer bottle, but I use this all the time for duck blinds and for tree stands. So I could say, all right, I want to hunt this, only on a north, northeast, northwest wind, hit apply. It sometimes takes a little bit for it to load up, but now I can see on that waypoint that it's a west wind, so maybe I still want to hunt it, but it's not great for that stand. So you can certainly do that, Doug. Let's see what else has come in. Don asked, can you use this when scouting your area from your home? You sure can. I can zoom out of my map and I can move, wherever I want, right? You can scout any area that you'd like. I can zoom in on southern Minnesota here and scout to my heart's content. PJ asks, not compass related, but hopefully you have time. I do. Can you search your saved waypoints? Specifically, I use notes and would like to search inside of the notes. That's a great question, PJ. That's not currently a feature that we have. I would use the heck out of that for sure. That's something I'll run up the flagpole here and see, if we can get that on, the roadmap moving forward. I've got like 1,600 waypoints or something, so that would definitely be something, just to be able to search for keywords within my notes, or if I know what I named the waypoint or something like that. All right, so we are a little bit over time, but I thank everybody for sticking around today. I'm gonna stop screen sharing here. Apologies if I couldn't get to your question. If you do have other questions or anything comes up that you forgot to ask, shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com. That's our customer support team. I know I'm biased, but I think they're the best in the industry. They will answer every question within 24 business hours. So emails that come in tonight, you'll get an answer tomorrow sometime before we shut down the office at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. Do want to give a plug for our other onX Hunt Masterclasses. Best way to find our upcoming schedule is honestly Google onX Hunt Masterclass or whatever your search engine of choice. onX Hunt Masterclasses. We have some, if you're looking for more of just a straight up tutorial, if this was a little bit over your head and you want it, a little bit more basic, we do a monthly 101. We're doing one towards the end of this month. We're also doing some preseason kind of refreshers. We have one targeted more towards whitetail folks, one for the Western big game folks. Both of those are next week. Whitetail one's on Tuesday, Western big game is on Thursday. And those are gonna be kind of a 101 tutorial, but a little bit more advanced for folks that have used the app. But if you're like a lot of people, it's August now, you haven't really used your onX since maybe turkey season, maybe last fall hunting season. So designed to kind of get everybody back up to speed, show you some of the new stuff we came out with, and get you ready for season, which a lot of them have kicked off already. We've got, I believe among the onX employees, we've got a sheep and a caribou down already, which is pretty exciting. The rest of us are patiently waiting. So again, thanks for being here. I know I'm rambling at the end of this. Hope everybody has a good night, and we hope to see you on the next one.